The objective for today is to factor a polynomial that is the difference of two squares. We have x squared minus 9. This is a binomial. It's going to factor into two different quantities. Okay? It's going to be basically the square roots. If you remember your square roots, you should be alright. So what's the square root of x squared? X. What's the square root of 9? 3. How do I get from 3 to negative 9? Times by negative 3. So I want to keep this one positive, and I want to make this one negative. We have 16x squared minus 25. Again, it's going to be two quantities. What's the square root of 16x squared? 4x. So 4x goes in one quantity, and it also goes in the other quantity. What's the square root of 25? 5. Again, one's plus, and one's minus. So my final answer is 4x plus 5 and 4x minus 5. Alright, so we have 49x squared minus 100. Again, we're going to have two quantities. What's the square root of 49x squared? 7x. What's the square root of 100? 10. Again, one's plus and one's minus. So if you had 7x minus 10 and 7x plus 10, that's fine too. So we have x squared minus 36. What does x squared break down into? X. So we're going to have an x in both. And the square root of 36 is 6. So we have one minus and one plus. So you guys don't have to fill out anything for this. 4x squared minus 25. What's the square root of 4x squared? Square root of 25? Again, one's plus and one's minus. So your answer would be 2x plus 5 and 2x minus 5. This one's a little different. It's 10x squared minus 40. Is 10 a perfect square? No. Is 40 a perfect square? No. So we look to see if we can factor out something to make it a perfect square. Okay? So what can you factor out of 10x squared and 40? 10. Good. So we take out a 10, and what are we left with? X squared minus 4. Good. Alright, now we look at this part, the x squared minus 4. We keep the 10. Now we're going to do a difference of two squares, just like normal. What's the square root of x squared? X. And the square root of 4? 2. So we have plus and minus. So your final answer would be 10 times the quantity of x plus 2 times the quantity of x minus 2. So we have 6x squared minus 54. What can we factor out of 6x squared minus 54? 6. So we're left with x squared minus what? 9. So we keep the 6 and factor x squared minus 9 as a difference of two squares. So what's the square root of x squared? X. And the square root of 9? 3. One's plus and one's minus. We have 16x squared minus 81. 16 is a perfect square, correct? Is 81 a perfect square? Yes. So, what's the square root of 16x squared? 4x. What's the square root of 81? One's plus, one's minus. So we have 3x squared minus 27. Is 3 a perfect square? No. Is 27 a perfect square? No. So we need to see what can factor out of both 3x squared and 27. And what does? 3. So we're left with x squared minus, what's 27 divided by 3? 9. So we keep the 3, and we factor x squared minus 9 as a difference of two squares. So what's the square root of x squared? X. Square root of 9?
3.
One's plus, one's minus. So we have 3 times x plus 3 times x minus 3. So we have 25x squared minus 100. Okay? So you guys actually did this, for the most part, a different way than I would have. But I'll show you the two ways, okay? So 25x squared minus 100, both of those are perfect squares, right? Okay, so what's the square root of 25x squared?
X.
Square root of 100? One's plus and one's minus. Okay, before you guys get up. So we have 7x squared minus 343. First key is to look at 7x squared. Is that a perfect square? No. So let's go ahead and factor out a 7. Have x and x. And what was 343 divided by 7? 49. What's the square root of 49? One's plus and one's minus. So we have 7, x plus 7, and x minus 7.